we're not doing 5-year-old art class today, even though it looks like it. This is as best I could do with a mouse pad and my finger. So forgive the forgive the rubbishiness of it. We're going to use this picture here as an analogy for how reality is created. Okay, so we know our physical reality has this thing embedded in it, this number phi, the golden ratio, 1.618, right? And we'll see these numbers echoed throughout this thing. Okay, and it's no doubt that if you were to snap one of these branches off here at the end here, and you were to look at one of these big branches, and you could, like, I don't know, or you just take a picture of this and then take a picture down here, you could zoom in on this picture here and it would look the same as this, and then this would look the same as this, etc., etc., all the way back to this point here. Okay, so everything is basically built with this number. Everything really looks the same. If you zoomed far enough out, everything would look the same. You know, if you looked at a leaf on this tree and you looked at the veins on the leaf, it would look the same as the branches on the tree. So, right, let's get to the point, because I was watching a guy the other day, just a little while ago actually, and he was going on about, well, it's impossible for these, you know, this idea of the people, you know, like the elites that carry out these events to be controlling the entire, you know, all the references, all the thousands upon thousands of references to these events. How can they possibly encode all that? And you'll hear Matt over at Quantum of Conscience say the same thing. It's impossible. They can't do it. Well, I'm just going to explain how I think it works, right? So you can see. Let's imagine for a minute. Okay, so if I was to snap a branch off here, right, it would look pretty much the same as a branch over here. So if this was an event here, right, let's just circle it. So, oh dear, Dan. So we've got this branch here. Well, I got to find another branch that looks a bit similar. All right, just right here, look. Okay, the one bit isn't quite as long, but so this event occurs right here, yeah? And then I look at another event or something else that's occurred, and look, oh look, you know, it splits at the same point or whatever, and it looks kind of the same. Not a very good example, but the same tree, the same reality, has got lots of branches that look very similar. It's the same thing that I've been saying about the Hoover Dam and the Space Needle and Washington DC. And if you look at 9/11, if you look at the layout of that area, the building names, all the where everything's positioned, everything references the same. You know, it's all, you could almost overlay some of these things. And it's the same with, like, you know, if you called the tree reality, you could look at one branch and it would look very similar to another branch. Yeah, it would look, you know, very similar to another branch over here. It might be a few little bits changed, but you know, these forks would look very similar. So if I'm a, you know, a baddie, and I'm able to look at reality and I know about these numbers, I can say to myself, well, you know what? I can put in my own event here. Look at that. Ah, boy, it looks imagine it was brown. We've got it in black so we can see this, event that's been added in. It's like grafting I don't know, but if you graft a fruit tree, you can take, another like species for the most part, and you can graft on a branch onto the same tree from another tree, similar species, and you can grow maybe like a different variety of. So I did this last year with my pear trees. So I've got I've got two different varieties of pears on a flowering pear tree. So what I've done is I've added a man-made branch in there. They look the same as a normal branch. I mean, there's a little blip where they connect. The branch looks the same. It's part of the same tree. It's going to form a similar growth habit as this tree. You're not going to be able to tell the difference. So this is what I think is happening. Certain people know where a branch should pop out on the timeline, and they do an event. For what reason? Well, if you do this event here, you now control this timeline here, don't you? To a certain extent, you're controlling what's going on in this timeline. Well, we see, let's extend this out. The problem is, if that extends out like that, the whole thing comes out of balance. And what nature will do is nature will do this. Nature will say something's not balanced here now. I mean, it's almost impossible. They could do an unbalanced event like 9/11, but nature will come along, or God or whatever, will come along and rebalance that event. So there's no way. It's a futile it's a futile thing to do. They can only control that branch. Oh geez, just erased the whole lot there. Let's undo that. It's a futile event to try to control a whole branch of reality. Just like in Back to the Future, that reality that's created ends up having to be put right. Marty and Doc end up putting it right, but inevitably that would have to happen. It can't go on out of balance like that, out of balance with the whole reality. So this is what I think's happening. For whatever reason, to control that certain little branch for a little while, these people are doing that. And the people that are doing it probably realize that they cannot control that thing forever. They cannot, just keep expanding that branch on out forever. At some point, nature comes in and nature says, no, that's got to be pruned back in line with the rest of the tree, in line with the rest of reality. But it's funny, they'll pick a date that works in with the reality because they know something's supposed to happen on that date. Maybe they don't pick a date. Maybe they just do it randomly. Doesn't matter what date we do, it will fit in with reality. I don't know. But what I do know is that thing mimics the true reality. In a way, you can't really, in a way, it can't really be a separate thing. In a way, God is, running the whole show. And that is why that will get pruned back in line with this. Because it's growing from this still. It's still created from this. So, that's what I think's going on. And this is why, so, you have this event now here. And it mimics other events that have naturally occurred. other events that have naturally occurred, and it's very, very difficult to tell the difference between them, you know, especially and I'd say it's almost impossible to tell the difference between them because you just never know whether that stupid name that they've put in there maybe just was a stupid name that occurred over here. Do you follow what I'm saying with the stupid names? The most recent one that comes to mind is this guy, the people they're arresting for the siege on the on the capital there. Um, Adam Johnson springs to mind. I mean, really, Adam Johnson? It sounds like it's been inserted, you know, but it could very well be. But there's really no way of telling. Oh dear. And eventually, this thing, even if it's inserted, has to fall in line with the rules. This is karma. Everything has to obey balance. So it doesn't matter if somebody does do something, it's going to end up looking like the same thing, and it's going to end up obeying the same set of rules. There may be a temporary, very short amount of, I don't even think there's anything temporary about it, but that's the illusion that might be given to the people doing it, that they have some kind of control temporarily, but they really don't, because the control is right here all the time. So this is why I think all these people that know about this operate within this set of rules. I know I say this is a set of rules here, but this is karma. An eye for an eye. They don't. Everything's balanced. That's the rule. Everything has to be balanced. So they when they operate it within that system, or within this system, it has to be balanced what they do, because they know it will come back round to bite them in the arse. They'll end up being pruned off the tree if they, when they're not obeying that rule. It's the same for all of us. Okay, so that's how I think the reality works. So there are man-made events, but it's almost impossible to tell them apart. And the amount of references there are just huge. Everything kind of looks the same because it's all born of this number. So there you go. Now while I'm on this, would I clear this out? Dear oh dear, I'm just going to go up in this top corner here because I want to just touch on, because this is related to this. I want to touch on, actually I can just do it on here and then I'll explain it again in a second. But imagine I'm a little water molecule now coming up. I've come up from the roots, but let's imagine that I've not come in from the roots, but I'm just starting right here at this point. Do you see this little point here? Right, I'm starting at this little point here. This is my birth here at 0, because I want to talk to you about destiny and free will, because I think some people there's maybe a misconstruction there, and people can misconstrue those two things. Like you can't have, if you're destined to do something, can you have free will? Well, I'm going to explain it now. Yes, you can, because those two things are kind of a different scenario. Actually, this is not the way to do it. Let's do it with the way I was going to do it, which is, let's go grey, and let's draw this thing up here. Oh, here we go. It's like, it's not quite as good as Bob Ross, is it? That's my happy tree. Now, this is supposed to be a thundercloud, right? And what comes out of that thundercloud for this thing, right? And where's it going to? It goes straight down to here. Ground. Ground is the 0 point for static electricity. Okay, that static charge that's up there, that static charge becomes a current when it flows to ground. Okay, so this thing going to ground, this is your 0, your null point. So this is you. This is the analogy. You are the rain cloud, or we are the rain cloud, or the thunder cloud. And this is your path in life. All right. And this is the destiny here. The 0 point, the null point, is destiny. This is where you're going to end up. You're coming from here to here. But on that travel, on the path, you have this thing called free will. And guess what? Somewhere along there, if you decide to do something different, you're going that way now. And then you decide, oh, well, we'll do this actually, and we're going to come this way. Have you ever seen a lightning strike in slow motion? The way it comes down, and then it sort of spreads out in different directions, and then when it finally finds the final route to ground, all that charge sort of goes back and follows that one path back to ground. It kind of has these little arms, similar to a tree. So this is your free will. These are the choices you get to make on that journey to your destiny. So, because I've talked to people, and I know people feel like, if you're destined, if you have destiny, how can you have free will? That's what people feel like. Well, that's how you can have free will. The ultimate destiny. You're destined to die. Along the way, you get to make choices. I don't know. Interesting, isn't it? But that's just another way of thinking about that. And it's similar, like I was going to say about water traveling through a tree. The destiny is to exit the tree, but the pathway that you take, which leaf you go through at the end of the day, depends on the choices you make. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of those pathways are going to essentially look very, very similar. And essentially, you're going to come out of a leaf a very, very similar. It's it's kind of a bit of a trick because realistically, all these loads of little choices you have and everything else, they're all essentially the same choices. When you look at the branch, you probably wouldn't be able to tell from another branch that much if you just stood back and looked at your life. With blurred vision, you might not be able to tell the difference between a choice you made here and a choice you made here. You know what I mean? Anyway, I think that's it for this one. I can't think of anything else to say. Yeah, yeah, real good, isn't it? Now you can go ahead and take a screenshot of that, print it up, frame it, put it on your wall. Real nice, free art. No charge for that artwork. You can reproduce that as much as you want. No copyright. Wonderful. All right, well, I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.